All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, with the start of the 2024 Major League Baseball season just several days away now, I've already talked about the American League West. I've already talked about the National League East. And right now, I'm going to take this time to talk about the American League East. In recent years, we have seen the contention, the war of attrition, whatever way you want to slice it, as far as how things go in this division. Last year, the American League East sent three teams to the playoffs. At the beginning of the year, I felt like they had the ability to send four. Didn't work out that way, but nonetheless, four of the five teams from this division finished with a winning record. Only the Boston Red Sox finished with a losing record. And even though that the Red Sox finished in last place in this division, they were still 78 and 84. So it gives you an idea of the quality of baseball that we have seen in recent years from this division. And I think that we are going to once again see that high quality of baseball coming out of the AL East. I want to start with the New York Yankees. And of course, when you think about the Yankees, you think about the mystique, the tradition, any way you want to slice it. More World Series championships than any other franchise, the Hall of Famers, retired numbers, Monument Park, you name it. But last year was a tough one for the Yankees and something that their fans are not have not, experienced in quite some time. The Yankees were only 82 and 80 last year, and honestly, they had to fight, scrap, and claw to not finish with a losing record. So let's see how the Yankees are going to be able to respond and rebound this year as they're looking to avoid consecutive 80 loss seasons or worse for the first time since 1992. Again, this gives you an idea of the consistency that we've seen from this Yankees franchise. But the Yankees, we've seen them be very hard at work trying to reshape this roster over the offseason. But even with all of that hard work, will it result in them getting back to the postseason? And then, of course, being able to win the World Series for the first time since 2009. Now, one thing's for sure, New York was one of the worst hitting teams in the American League last season. We're talking about the Yankees being 14th in team batting average, just 227. They were 12th in on base percentage and 11th in slugging. Things that you normally and historically don't think about when you think about the Yankees. Of course, the nickname the Bronx Bombers. So you got a new hitting coach in James Rowson. What is he going to be able to do to help this lineup produce more? The big move for the Yankees, of course, acquiring all-star outfielder Juan Soto from the San Diego Padres. We saw the Padres go all in last year, trying to make it World Series a bust, and of course, it busted. So now the Padres knew that hey, Soto was in his walk year. More than likely, they're not going to be able to get him to a long-term extension, especially since they already have previous money committed to other players. So what do? You try to trade him and get some assets back. So the Yankees do know that this is Soto's walk year. He's not looking to negotiate a contract prior to the start of the season or during the season. He's going to let it play out. Another Scott Boras guy, of course. But, with that said, he could be set up for a big year. And of course, the bigger the stage, the better that Juan Soto plays. And of course, as a lefty, will he fall in love with that short porch at Yankee Stadium down the right field line? I do believe that he will. You also look at the fact that you have Aaron Judge. And of course, Soto being there provides some protection around Aaron Judge. But the Yankees need Aaron Judge to be healthy. Maybe he doesn't have to be historically great like he was a couple of years ago when he set the AL home run record. No, but the Yankees need Aaron Judge and his bothersome big toe to be healthy. Also, what is New York going to be able to get out of Giancarlo Stanton? Once upon a time, Giancarlo Stanton was a National League MVP, has not lived up to the expectations since the Yankees acquired him from the Miami Marlins several years ago. But nonetheless, what can they get for him at this point of his MLB career? Gleyber Torres, another guy who's set to be a free agent. I think he can have a big time impact for this Yankee lineup. Also, bringing in a guy like Alex Verdugo, he's a guy who has that potential, he's just one of those guys that just does whatever it takes, if you will. And I think, we saw before with the Red Sox, we saw previous to that with the Dodgers, and I think a guy like Alex Verdugo could have an impact on this Yankee team this year, but it still comes down to pitching for New York. Of course, if you're the Yankees, you're not happy that Garrett Cole is not going to be there to start the season, but at least you know it's not Tommy John, and you still have the opportunity to possibly see him pitch for you at some point over the summer. That's going to be big. But aside from Garrett Cole, who in that rotation is going to step up? We saw the Yankees spend a lot of money on Carlos Rodon last year, and he only went 3-8 with a 6.85 ERA and 14 starts. That ain't going to come to cut it. You bring in Marcus Stroman, an up and down career for him as a starter. And then you look at Clay Holmes and his Yankees bullpen. I think the big thing is a guy like Cole eats innings. So having him not be there is going to hurt this bullpen. Why? Because the aside from Cole, the Yankees do not have a guy who can consistently go deep into games and eat innings. So that's going to be important to see how this bullpen gets taxed rather during the season. And it's going to be interesting to see what Aaron Boone is going to be able to do to try to get this team back to October. Now, it's going to be tough for the Yankees. Why? Not just because I think the Yankees are looking to get back on track, but the competition in this division. And when you think about the competition, it starts to me with the Tampa Bay Rays. They don't spend like their brethren in the AL East, but they just continue to win. They're coming into this year with 6 consecutive winning seasons and 5 straight trips to the postseason. They won 99 games last year, but of course, when you think about Tampa, it's the playoff woes because they're built to win during the regular season. They don't have a team that's built for October. But with that said, I think the Rays can and will once again be very formidable this season. Now, when you think about the Rays, their pitching continues to define this era of Tampa baseball. Their rotation is going to look a lot different this year. Tyler Glasnow was traded to the Dodgers. Shane McClanahan is recovering from Tommy John surgery. But then you have a guy like Zach Eflin. He won 16 games last year. What is he going to be able to do for an encore? Tampa has one of the best bullpens in baseball, and I do believe that it will once again be a strength for them. They got plenty of balance in this lineup with the likes of Randy Arozarena, Isaac Paredes, Yandy Diaz, and Harold Ramirez. And because of that, I think Tampa Bay will once again be a force in the East. Now, you look at the Baltimore Orioles, and just a couple of years ago, in 2021, the O's lost 110 games, but last year they enjoyed a turnaround for the ages. We saw Baltimore win 101 games, and they also won the American League East for the first time in 9 years. But in the playoffs, they were unable to overcome the Rangers, who, they found themselves in the wild card round, and of course, the rest is history. Now, the expectations were not that high for Baltimore last season, and to me, I think they kind of flew under the radar. What are they going to be able to do this time for an encore? Well, make no mistake about it. You got plenty of young talent there in Baltimore, the likes of Gunnar Henderson. And it's like a mix of young talent and veterans. Anthony Santander, Adley Rushman, and Ryan Mountcastle. And they have, and I think they will continue to have, one of the top offenses in the American League. Pitching is going to once again be key for Baltimore. And bringing in somebody like former NL Cy Young Award winner Corbin Burns from the Milwaukee Brewers only helps. You bring in a veteran closer in Craig Kimbrell, a guy who's been there and done that. You have Kyle Bradish, and I think Brandon Hyde once again has a team that can contend for the top spot in the East. Then you look at the Toronto Blue Jays. Again, I've only talked about 3 teams, and we still got 2 more to go. This gives you an idea of the depth of this division. And of course, every division has 5 teams, but nonetheless, I'm just talking about the depth and the competitive nature of the East. Now, we saw the Blue Jays, another playoff team from last year. They finished with a winning record in each of the last 4 years. 3 of those years have seen them get to the playoffs, but unfortunately, in October, it just has not worked out for them. As the 3 trips to the playoffs, not only have they been one and done in the first round, they have yet to win a game. Okay. So, with all of that said, how will things improve for the Jays this year? Well, First things first, I think Toronto needs Vlad Jr. to get back to playing like an MVP candidate. That's one thing. Vlad has the talent, but I think he has yet to really put it all together, both mentally and physically. And I think that's going to be big for him as well as the Blue Jays going forward. So much talent in this lineup with the likes of George Springer and Bo Bichette. Then you bring in a veteran like Justin Turner, who's seen so much over his illustrious MLB career. The pitching for Toronto, it was a strength last year. It's going to have to once again be again. You got Kevin Gausman, you got Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios, and UC Kikuchi in that rotation. Guys that know how to win. Alec Manoah is back, but what can Toronto get out of him? It was kind of almost like he had the yips last year. So it's going to be interesting to see if the big fella is going to be able to get back on track. Strong bullpen for Toronto with the likes of Jordan Romano, and I think John Schneider, the Blue Jays manager, once again has a team that will not only contend for a postseason spot, but will also contend for the division crown. And finally, there's the Boston Red Sox, and the Red Sox are coming off of consecutive 84 loss seasons. And of course, their fan base in the New England area has to be wondering, when will things get turned around there? Now, in recent years, we have not seen the Red Sox spend big money in free agency like we were once accustomed to seeing them do. Now, were they active over the winter in regards to making moves on their roster? They made some moves, yeah, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make people think like, hey, this Red Sox team is ready to contend for a postseason spot again, especially since they have to deal with that stacked AL East. Now, aside from Rafael Devers, will Boston be able to get any production consistently out of anybody in this lineup? We got to wait and see. The Trevor Story fiasco so far. You bring in Masataka Yoshida. What is he going to do? And then the Boston pitching wolves. The Sox had one of the worst pitching staffs in the American League, period, last season. Losing Lucas Giolito before the season even starts. That's a big one. I think, Kenley Jansen as your closer, I don't see him finishing the season with Boston. I see them trading him to a contender, which means Boston is once again going to be out of the race. And it's unfortunate because people, might not think about it today at least, but from 2014 to 2018, the Red Sox won 4 World Series championships. And just like that, they have now become a shell of what this organization once was. So you look at this division overall, very tightly contested last year. Um, the Orioles won this division with 101 wins, and the Rays were just 2 games behind them. 4 teams with winning records. 3 of them made the playoffs. I think 4 of these 5 teams are going to once again be in contention. Initially, I picked the Yankees to win this division, but with the injury to Garrett Cole, I think that you really can't underscore the impact that that is going to have on New York this season. But with that said, I'm going to give a slight edge to Baltimore. But it's one of those where I do believe it really wouldn't surprise me to see this division race be extremely tight once again this year. And when I say extremely tight, it wouldn't surprise me to see New York, Toronto, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay all finish within 5 games of one another. This is going to be a tightly contested division, a very competitive division, little margin of error. And with the quote unquote balanced schedule now, I think all of these teams here need to take care of their business when they're outside of this division to really, rack up on the wins. But nonetheless, another competitive year for the American League East. And I think the Orioles will find a way once again to come out on top. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.